In this video, I'm going to look at a couple of the problems you may have with seam blends and how to repair them. One of the important things I mentioned in a very early video, possibly the first, was to make sure you have the display panorama turned off. Now, this is particularly important when you're working with seam blends. As you'll see, if I turn the panorama on, my seam blend has just been destroyed, or looks as if it's been destroyed. It's actually perfectly fine, but any view apart from the top view, if the panorama's turned on, it won't display the seam blend. So you may think your seam blends aren't working. You apply a seam blend and it all looks horrible like this. It could just be a simple matter that you've left your panorama ticked. So that's the first thing to look out for. And I still occasionally fall for it and panic when my seam blends aren't working. So another thing that will happen is the seam blend will actually become messed up by altering the terrain, which is why you really want to do the seam blends right at the end, when you're sure you're not going to be moving any verts about, deleting anything, and you've got your terrain just as you want it. But the times when you can't help it, you're going to add extra verts and turn edges and things, and just the seam blend will get messed up. So I'm just going to mess the seam blend up here. So I'll just paint in a few verts. I've got a double vert there with the old terrain painter, and I'll just remove them again. It's non-destruct delete, and although it's non-destruct delete, it has actually destroyed my seam blend. So I've got a horrible straight edge there now. So provided we've labelled our seam blends and our multiples the same, it's very simple to correct this. So all we need to do, go to face, select our coordinate mapping or whatever that's called up there, and highlight one of the faces that's got messed up. So it's this rough to scrub, and click on select from face. Now what this will do is take whatever mapping, at the moment we're on default down here, it will take the mapping from whatever's highlighted. So if I select from face, we now find out what that particular multiple is called, and this is multiple rough to scrub 1A. So all I need to do is look for rough to scrub 1A in the list of mappings. So I'll go select, find the rough to scrub 1A, which is there. OK, and I'll highlight the whole seam blend, and all I've got to do is just add it back in again. So I'll click add, and now I've just got to add the multiple. So I need to look for multiple rough to scrub 1A. So again, select mapping, find the multiple for it, and add that, and our seam blend is fixed again. It may flip, as it does, we've discussed in the seam blends tutorials before. Sometimes it will flip, so when you add it again, you may have to flip the direction round first. If it's wrong, you can even do it afterwards. If it's flipped round, you can select the mapping again, which is rough to scrub 1A, rough to scrub 1A. There we go. And as it's selected, even if it wasn't, actually I think it works, just flip direction, and it will rotate. So if it's reversed, again, just flip it after it's applied. I'm not sure if it has to be selected. Let's have a look. Let's select that. Let's flip the direction again. No, it doesn't even have to be selected. Just select the mapping and flip the direction, and it will correct it. This path is a closed loop path, which are easier to create than the open-ended ones where you need the straight rectangular ends that we described. But it's still important when you add your blend to select the correct place in the loop. You really want to select a face which has got a face either side in the same alignment. You don't want to do it on a corner where it's changing directions, because what you'll find sometimes, you'll add the path and a couple of the faces won't be mapped correctly, and you'll end up with a stretched mark. You've probably seen it in bunkers on dirt lips on some people's courses where they've mapped the bunker lip, but just one little bit of it is stretched and looking all blurry. And this is because they haven't chosen the correct place to start their blend from, and where the blend starts is where you click on it. So if I click here, although it's selected everything, it's actually going to start and end the blend here. So I want to select faces that are in a nice straight line with each other. If you haven't got any, if it's a very irregular shaped thing you're trying to blend, your best bet's probably to split one of your sections up into three. So you could do this with an edge split command. So you could create more faces. Turn the one in the middle and do it again. Split. And turn the one in the middle. That way you'll guarantee you've got a row of faces that are in the same plane, and then you would select the middle one when you apply your blend. Just select that middle one, and it guarantees that whichever way round this is going, it's going to end and start with nicely aligned textures, and you won't get any problems, hopefully. You never know though with APCD what it's going to do, but that's quite a useful thing to do. If you're using extruded faces, obviously it's probably best to split your line before you extrude it down. That way it will create the extra faces for you, because it can be a little bit fiddly going in and looking at the thin vertical edge and trying to turn the correct edges round to create your new faces. So do it before you extrude down is the best bet. There. Another thing, handy tip when you are seam blending, if I find a green, quite often your textures are very similar in colour. So if I was blending, say, this fairway and fringe texture and adding the seam blend, sometimes it's quite hard to tell. Not sure if I've sunk these enough to get at them actually. Right, okay, so let's go in and select these. Rough to first cut. So let's say we're adding a rough to first cut seam blend, which is this is rough to first cut 5, so I'm going to select the mapping again and just add it again. Rough to first cut 5. Add to. Because our rough is dark and our first cut is light, we can actually see that this needs flipping. It's the wrong way round. But if these two textures were the same colour, I was going to demonstrate on this one, but because I've sunk the verts level, it's going to be a little fiddly to get at it. But if these two textures, rough and first cut, were similar colour, you quite often can't see whether your texture needs flipping, because it's all blurry. You can't tell one texture from another. You just see a colour variation, and sometimes it's very slight. So what you can do in this case, we look at the rough to first cut seam. If I go in, what you can do is temporarily change one of these. So if we change the texture 1 to rough, from it's on AK rough 2, if I select a texture I'm not using, say, let's try that one for instance. If I add that texture, you'll instantly see it's two separate colours now. It's very easy for us to see that that needs flipping, because we want the brown colour of the rocks on the outside, because we've set that as rough, so we can flip it. Now I can add my rough to first cut 5 multiple, select mapping, multiple rough to cut. So I'm going to add the multiple in. Multiple rough to first cut 5. And because we've changed this texture, we can actually now see that we've done that seam blend. So it's also very useful if you've got say a set of bunkers and you're doing each one. It's quite hard to tell which ones you've done and which ones you haven't. So if you just leave a temporary texture in as one of your seam blend textures, you can instantly see where you've seam blended and where you haven't. You could use an even brighter one. You could maybe load in a bright blue texture or yellow or whatever, and it will then easily show up on your overhead, and you can see which ones you've done. Because I've changed the seam blend texture and these have already been seam blended, they're all marked as done. But if there wasn't a blend, I could instantly see, that fairway hasn't been done if there wasn't this brown around it. So it's quite a good way. Serves two purposes. One, you can see which way to flip your textures if the colours are very similar, and two, you can see which seams you've done and which ones you haven't. Then all you have to do when you finish doing all the course is just put the texture back again. So just go back in here, change that back to whatever it was. I can't really remember what it was again. AK rough 2 I think it was. God, my memory. So if I just flip it back to AK rough 2, okay, save that. Once we've done them all, that'll flip back to normal. We know we've done every blend we wanted to do, and we haven't missed any.